want to share some memories of my father. A couple of them that we heard from aunts and uncles that, as far as I know, he never told us. One was when he was 10 years old, he had charge of 10 cows. And he had to get up every morning and milk those cows by hand, and he had to do that again every evening. So he learned responsibility early in his life, right at the farm there. Another thing that they told us was the kind of driver he was when he was young. Some of the aunts and uncles said that if you wanted a nice, smooth, and easy ride, you'd ride with Uncle Harold. But if you wanted to throw a ride, you'd ride with Jim. Though he was worked a lot, always working it seemed, he was still close at hand. Right across the driveway was a milk plant, and he was either there or working on the farm, and we could go see him anytime we wanted to, or go have him put us to work or whatever, but he was always there, always around, despite the fact he worked a lot. When I met Barbara and we decided to get married, it was my father that went with me to get through it. He was a gentle, quiet man most of the time, but he had this little growl if he wanted to get after you, that we are all familiar with. Especially the time that I knocked him off the ditcher by accident. He would always go to the milk plant early on Sunday, earlier than usual, to get that job done so we could always go to church. He always saw that we were there. In many ways, like that and others, he displayed his love for Jesus Christ. And we as a family, and I personally as a son, very thankful for that. He was a quiet and gentle man, but he was a giant to us.
Hi, I'm Karen Kale, the oldest daughter, and these last 2 weeks I've been up here most of the time. Last week, before he passed away, I was feeding him and talking to him all the time that I fed him, and even though most of the time his eyes were closed, he was still drinking and eating, and I just thought I would say a few things to him so that I don't know how much he heard, but I told him some of the things that I remembered about growing up and how much I loved him. And I thought of that Bible verse that says, we love because God first loved us. And I think that that was also passed down to all of us children, that because our Father loved us so much, then we were able to have love in our hearts to give to other people. And I have a memory too of going into the milk house, though I called it the milk house, but anyway, and I was a feisty one when I was young, even though you would never think it now, but every time my mother keeps saying that my granddaughter Reagan is just like me. And I was always getting into scrapes and fights with my brothers and disagreements with my mom and things like that, and I get so upset and angry, and I run to the milk house and I pour it all out to my dad, and he'd just stand there doing his work, just listening away. And then after a while he'd say something like, well, you know, your mom really loves you. You have to do the things she says, or you got to be nicer to your uncle or your brothers. And it just always, but he always listened, and he always made me feel like I was really loved and not condemned. And then also too, I want to close with the fact that 15 years ago, this September, my husband died in the plane crash. And my father said to me, he wished it had been him instead of my husband because he had already lived his life and my husband was still young. And I think how much more love can a father show.
I'm Neil, and as you probably know, my dad was a man of few words, but he was a problem solver. Many times he was able to improvise some sort of solution to fix problems on the farm using just the items he had on hand. And he was low key, but even though my interests may not have been his interests, he showed an interest in them as well. And when I was interested in electronics and ham radio, he helped me buy equipment and helped me build antennas. And he took me with him when he went to work, dropped me off in Cleveland, and I took an FCC test and got my ham license, and he picked me up at the end of the day, and he did those things to help out, and he even took an interest in our skiing. Our family has been very interested in that for a long time. Went with us on a ski trip to New England and rode gondola to the top of the mountain, and rode a tram to the top of another mountain. He didn't ski, but he came along and enjoyed the time. And I think all of us, all of my brothers and sisters, got an interest in music from him. He played in a band in college, and he encouraged us in that way, and he was always interested to come to our church Christmas concert that we had in Akron. Every time he could come, he was able to come. He really wanted to come, and he liked, he may not have liked some of the more contemporary music we did as much, but when we did the Hallelujah chorus so often as we did in the 80s and 90s, he said he particularly liked that one at the end of the concerts, and even was able to hear the jazz band I play in a couple times as we played kind of like a prelude for those concerts, and we just really appreciate his godly influence in our lives.
I'm Mary, and the youngest of the family. And one thing I appreciate was his smile. And the fact that he was there for all of us. He's faithful to us. He also was good at following the sport, especially Ohio State football. And whenever he could, he would always watch it on TV or listen to it on the radio when he could hear. And he was good for instilling the love of watching the sports.